Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com.
So good news apparently of a sorts. It would seem that the WHO have officially come out and said that the pandemic's over, although I'm still a bit confused because they're still referring to the pandemic still really going on. It's just more that the emergency status isn't there anymore. Obviously, COVID's still around and people are still getting it, and it's still causing deaths or whatever, or severe illness. But obviously, the intensity of the how serious I guess it was taken and how it was going has obviously shifted in the last few months, I guess. And I just thought it was interesting that they felt the need to go out and say that. I guess they have to make a demarcation point at some point because the world is pretty much, gone back to business as usual now and trying to do everything the way they did before. But it kind of led me to wonder whether or not, apart from doing the official box ticking thing that they need to do with this stuff, like what the practical implications of this are anyway, because I felt like this announcement on a practical level in society was kind of done a while ago already.
Yeah, look, I agree with you, but let's face it, if the WHO is the official declarer of a pandemic, then at some point they have to end it. And I'm sure that triggers or finishes or ends some sort of funding cycle that they're on, or some, policy cycle that they regulate. So, look, I think for most of us now, COVID kind of almost seems like a distant memory. And the fact that it's still here and we're still living with it, our relationship with it is very different. So we've moved on. We've moved on into a new world. And I guess, after officially what would be 3 years and a bit, the WHO can say that's it, it's done.
Absolutely. All right, well, kicking off with that and now moving on to our next topic, why do we need sleep? Now, I've been thinking about this for a little while, only because I've had a bit of interrupted sleep, I should say, in the last little while, and I find I go through phases of this, I'll have good sleep and then sometimes I won't have good sleep. And obviously, anecdotally, I think every one of us knows that if, stay up and don't go to sleep for an extended period of time, it's going to start impairing you cognitively. You're going to have, obviously, not the energy to do. You're not going to be able to focus. You're not going to be able to do things. And then it can lead to some very serious sort of consequences if you try to persist in staying awake for too long. So I don't think anecdotally obviously we need the sleep. It's something that we need, but it's quite interesting that I came across this article about bi-phasic sleep, which was about in the past humans having effectively 2 shifts of sleep. So basically they would have maybe 4 hours of sleep, they'd wake up for an hour or two, and then they'd have another 4 hours of sleep, and that predominated at least prior to the 17th century. And then we sort of after that started to move towards the model of, get 8 hours of sleep a night kind of thing. And I just thought that was interesting and kind of, and I only say that because I felt like I've been doing that recently where, I'll have like a 4 hour, I go to bed and then I'll be up at like 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm fully awake, but then I'll die again and go to sleep at like 2 o'clock or something. And but I also wonder whether there's phases of this as well, because trying to like box us in like sort of like a robotic response to human biological processes is a little bit difficult, because we're all growing, changing, we go through different phases and everything, and sleep might just be another one of these things where you can have, extended periods where you have lots of good sleep, then you might have not so bad sleep. It might be impacts psychologically that it's having on you. Maybe you're under stress, or maybe it's just random. But I guess the point at the end of the day is you still got to have it.
Well, the thing that's really interesting about this particular story is that, look, scientifically it's well established that we should have around 8 hours of sleep a day. And what this story I found fascinating was we only started having a full single 8 hours sleep a day with industrialisation and paid work, i.e. we have to show up for work at a particular time and you clock on for a notional 8-hour shift from the time you start. What this was talking about was the fact that if you were subsistence living, running a small plot in a village somewhere, living in ankle-deep mud during winter and like sweating it out with mosquitoes during summer, you would actually quite possibly have a couple of sleeping periods, which would probably add up to about 8 hours throughout a day. And that might be, in some cultures it could be a siesta after lunch for 3 or 4 hours and then staying up late into the night for another 4 or 5 hours sleep at the other end. Or potentially you might go to sleep in the very early evening, wake up 3 or 4 hours later, be up for 2 or 3 hours and then grab another 4 hours after that and probably still get up when the sun rises. So it's fascinating to think that, with industrialisation and organised work, we've created a system where we no longer sleep naturally, and it's probably something we don't think very much about. And interestingly, it means that maybe, for people with sleep issues, if they have insomnia or have difficulty sleeping throughout a night, maybe there's something in this that could be explored. But obviously, even the modern age, although we're a lot more flexible today than we have been in the past, how you integrate, I guess, a couple of sleeps in a 24-hour period, that's an interesting question.
And of course, the ultimate challenge too is that in our new modern globalized world, it's operating 24/7. So now, people can work at any time. Shift work, whatever else. So I think that also adds to it. The concept of, we'd only work during daylight hours, for instance, and that was the only option, has gone out the window completely. People can be working at any time. And so you've got more distractions than ever before to keep you awake as well. A lot of technology, if misused, for instance, too much streaming, too much device use, can keep you awake, and it's something they have to actually be very conscious of in terms of management, because it could just run away without you realizing it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's an interesting point you make. Basically the digital environment is very good at keeping us on our devices for as long as possible, whether it's games, phones, socials, whatever, and that is distracting us. But you also make a second good point, which is if we are moving into a world where we can work 24/7, it also means we can find time for 8 hours sleep across that 24/7. And I think, what all of the studies show around the need for sleep is that you got to clock off for at least 8 hours in a 24-hour cycle. Otherwise, you risk quite serious health conditions, especially later in life.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. All right, let's turn to our last topic, which I was especially disturbed by, Steve, when you sent it to me. Mind reading machines are here, so is it time to worry? So the story about a study that used brain scans and AI to decode imagined speech, that was tested, and obviously it wasn't 100% accurate and they were still making mistakes or whatever, but it was doing it with some disturbing level of accuracy, which you could then see in future generations of the technology. Maybe it can be perfected. And obviously this leads to the idea of, mental privacy. And, if someone can just scan you with a device and know exactly what you're thinking, that'll be... I can't even imagine what the world would turn into if that became a reality.
Well, I can tell you what the world will turn into, Ben. It was in a 1960s sitcom, Gilligan's Island, if you ever watched the episode, and it must be on YouTube somewhere, where they discover the mind-reading berries. That's 30 minutes of the best comedy I've ever seen, although I think in a real-world situation it'd be absolutely horrific if mental privacy, you realise is pretty important, because at the moment, I think, especially in the current environment, we certainly understand that we're not allowed to say certain things anymore, and we just keep them on the inside. But if you can't even keep them on the inside, then some of us are in for a world of pain.
Absolutely. I mean, this story kind of feeds into a growing trend of I guess, concern and warning that's now developing in the discourse around AI and the development of things like ChatGPT and whatever. We've talked about ChatGPT before. If it's, if a technology arrives that can write things for you, or can, compose music for you, or can do all of these things that are traditionally been sitting in the human space, something that technology can't replicate. There is a disturbing kind of element to what the implications of that are, and this is like an extension of it, because you would effectively have a new level of political interaction. And when I say political, I mean the kind of day-to-day political interaction you have with others, where you might be presenting yourself in a particular way because you feel it's advantageous to you, even though it's different to what you're thinking, and to have to apply that to what you're thinking as well. I don't know if the human brain can actually cope with that, given all of our socialization that we've done over so many thousands of years up until this point.
Oh, yeah, look, you're absolutely right. I mean, this is potential for AI to be disruptive, and potentially in a negative way, because it becomes more and more difficult to, find a balance. I mean, if you move to an environment where AI can predict what you're thinking, or accurately represent what your thoughts might be, and then use them through another AI mode to influence you to purchase something or to undertake an action. And we know humans subconsciously and through subliminal messaging will take these cues and will act on them. Then you get AI controlling humans in a way that we've yet to explore. We've always thought of the Skynet prophecy, where AI just takes over, but in actual fact, what we could end up with is AI just suggesting to us what we're doing, and then we just all wander around with the same thoughts, doing the same things in the same way, which would be equally catastrophic for humanity. So it's a very interesting area. We're certainly seeing the power of AI rise much more quickly than people predicted. The fact that, this AI system is reading blood flows to areas. We know how thoughts and memories are formed in the brain. We don't really understand how and why they happen, but we do understand the areas and some of the basic recognition of these systems. And if AI is able to read these and predict, then, all I can say is that if there's anybody who'd be horrified if all the contents of their mobile phone was exposed to the whole world, or to their mum, if you want a nice analogy there, then this would be something I'd...
Well, it's next level, isn't it?
I'd be very wary of.
It's absolutely next level, isn't it? And I just wanted to pick up that sort of Skynet point, or even like the idea of Big Brother or whatever. Like, people might think that it's like it automatically leads to an authoritarian type scenario. It could just be like, like the AI leading the humans, leading the AI, leading the humans, which would create a bizarre sort of setup of interactions. And it could just be chaos, or a lot more level of chaos than what you might think. Like, particularly if you do have pockets that can rebel against it or whatever. And that's... and I don't think it's something that we can actually imagine. It's not something, I don't think, that, for instance, science fiction's been able to imagine up until this point. So, but when you try to think about it, it just doesn't sound good at all.
No, it doesn't. And I think while it doesn't sound good, that doesn't mean it's bad, but I think the fact that it doesn't sound good shows us a very high-risk area which deserves some deep thought and some clever thinking. And I don't know where that's going to come from, because we don't traditionally see governments able to respond to advanced technologies like this until it's far too late. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Well, not to mention that in the social media age, a lot of us are not really able to do much deep thinking anymore, and also with the amount of distractions that are going on, because we're slowly, it would seem, getting rewired for short attention span, focus and thinking, which is completely inadequate for dealing with something like this.
Well, that's already an example of AI understanding humans better than humans understand themselves.
Absolutely. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there on that nice rosy note. Maybe I'll go out in the fresh air as an antidote to that.
Get some sunshine, something that's natural, not artificially controlled.
Absolutely. All right, so don't forget to check out our website, scitechculture.com. You can get all of our links and content there. You can subscribe to our YouTube and Vimeo channels, our RSS feeds, and watch us on any and all of your devices, and we greatly appreciate your visits to our website. All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.